Setlist episode number 3. I got out of bed for some reason. It's 10:30 p.m. at night, and Corey's here with us to talk about some music video that's 8 minutes fucking long, but it reminds me that it's not so bad. It's not so bad. Dear Slim, but I wrote you, but you still ain't calling. No, we're not going into the entirety of that. But yeah, welcome to Setlist episode 3. It is just me today. But before we get into anything, one, buy our fucking shit. But yeah, like I said, it is just me, no Andrew today. Oh, hey, producer man. Good to have you here. I mean, there's no reason to be rude like this, but this is kind of within form. We have, for the second week in a row, we have a Canadian, and not only a Canadian, but an Islander. It is one Corey Dougay. What is going on, good sir?
Not too much. I appreciate that intro song. I appreciate the effort that went into that.
Yeah, all about 10 minutes or whatever. Like I threw on the song today, and I was like, how can I make this into the theme? But yeah. So for those who haven't watched the show before, how this works is we give the guest the same 10 questions. So if you heard it before, you already know the questions. But if you don't, this is hopefully a brand new experience for you. So Corey, let us kick right into it. Yes, but I believe that I agreed on this take. So even though I agree with you on that Shook Ones Part 2 is bad, we should have him here. But sure, I mean, we're on, like, Andrew and I as well are both on thin ice, but this is also a person who considers a living.
Who is it?
It's an enigma at this point. Yeah. So on to question number 1. Corey, who is your favorite artist?
Okay, so my favorite artist is Tech9. I think for me, like a favorite artist, I've never just been like the type of person to only listen to one artist all the time, consistently, nonstop. But when I think about a musician or an artist that has had the most impact, or the person that I have followed the most, or the person who has influenced kind of like what I listen to and what I appreciate in music, it's obviously Tech9. He has a crazy long and a very, you can almost say, like, diluted career. He's released a lot of music. He's done a lot of albums. A lot of the music that he does is like features and collaboration. So he does a lot of features and stuff like that. So it can be very kind of draining to follow someone like that, because there's so much content that they're putting out that you need to take in. But I remember it was probably 2008, 2009, whenever I was introduced, I guess you could say, to one of his albums, and it was Psychology 101. And at that point, like, I thought that I was interested in hip hop and the creativity that goes into like writing rhymes and rhyme patterns and rhythm and things like that. And then I was introduced to a couple of his songs and that album, and it showed me the creativity that can go into music and the storytelling and the different ways that you can use music to kind of tell a story, or kind of show the different ways that you can present music, right? And kind of use sound and words as instruments, where it's very, it showed a level of complexity, and then also a level of imagery that whenever a lot of your I guess kind of popular rap music might not show. And then it was kind of like a very eye-opening experience for me where I said, oh, like there's different genres of music, but there's different ways that people can interpret those genres and present them and kind of use it. So where when you think about like hip hop and rap and pop music, which all kind of coincide with each other, kind of like the beat and the rhythm and the chorus and the hook is what, if that is catchy, then that kind of determines success in that genre. And that's what I was always exposed to in terms of music, where or especially for rap music, where it was like, you know, being a white guy from Eastern Canada, it's like, about Eminem and Classified, or like the black rappers like Ludacris or 50 Cent and stuff like that, that were like commercially successful. That's the only stuff that you were exposed to, right? But then once and I mean, like, this might kind of age me a little bit, but I didn't have much access to the internet before the age of like 16 or 17 or 18, you know what I mean? So it's not like I was especially in terms of music, kind of like, the accessibility to different genres or different styles of music when I was growing up was very limited. Like, my music was just kind of like radio, TV, and the CDs that my parents bought me, right? So whenever I kind of gained access to the World Wide Web and was able to realize that, okay, well, I like rap music, and I like what Eminem is doing and stuff like that, and then you realize that there's hundreds and hundreds of artists that are kind of in this genre of music, when you only knew that five existed before that time or whatever. And then just kind of like that album, so Psychology 101 was the first album that I heard from him. The way that it kind of hit me, where I was like, oh, like whenever rappers are rapping, they will use like, it's not just one syllable that they're rhyming. Maybe it's two, maybe it's three, maybe it's four. Maybe they're rhyming at the end of a bar, or at the middle of the bar, and stuff like that. Or maybe they're saying one thing, but it means another, or it could be interpreted a different way. And then that was kind of like one of the first albums that I kind of listened to the entire way through, where I was like, oh, it's almost telling a story throughout the album. And I'm not really that inclined with music or and things like that, but it's one of the I do understand that music can tell a story and things like that. And this was one of the first times where I realized that, oh, like, your entire album can have a theme, it can have a message, it can have emotions that are portrayed throughout it. It can kind of have highs and lows, and kind of a storyline throughout, all the tracks and stuff like that. And that's kind of one thing that Tech Nine has done throughout his career, where he does a lot of like skits, I guess, throughout the album, which a lot of people see. Skits are kind of a thing where people think it might add to it, or it might kind of take away from the creativity of the music and things like that. But
But even saying that though, like skits aren't that far out of the mainstream, because I think Eminem, like even Eminem, was doing
he did a
skits
lot
for
of them.
his records.
A lot of them, yep. And and like in terms of it, I don't know. And then it's one of those things though, where whenever you are trying, because this is also way back in the day, where people were trying to, or people had to purchase albums or buy CDs and things like that. So it was like, oh, if you have an 18 track CD, but 5 of those tracks are skits or introductions or interludes and things like that, people thought that artists were doing that to dilute their content. And that was kind of like a point of criticism, where today, as like when they ever release music, it's on YouTube or Spotify or stuff like that, it doesn't matter how many tracks, or and especially with hip hop, because hip hop is went to a place now where the songs have gotten a lot shorter. Songs were short for a time, and then then they went to a format where you needed to have, you know, three verses and three hooks and a bridge and stuff like that. And then it went to a spot now where it's like songs can be like 2.5 minutes again, right? So it's, you know, it just shows that it's just a different era of time.
So Tech Nine, I discovered in like 2014 or 2015 through a roommate that had been listening to it. Probably one of the more respected rappers like amongst the community. Like I would put Tech Nine up there with like Andre 3000 and like just overall kind of beloved. And I think it's also just like part of his story. Whereas like he came up with the Bloods, almost fucking died from doing fucking 15 tabs of ecstasy. And then it's just like, I'm gonna make this album in '99, Calm Before the Storm, and then it's just gonna be like I'm gonna make a record the next year and the year afterwards, and just like coming like even as a songwriter, I find it tough to not only come up with a song but finish that song. And this fucker does enough of it to do 23 goddamn studio albums.
Yeah.
Since then, pretty well a record a year. Another thing, just so like getting back to the story, brought up or whatever, consistently on the Forbes list for successful hip hop artists, like in the top 15, and considering that he is independent, like wasn't put on a massive label, but is now like on his own with Strange, and I think it's just a testament of the power of, I guess, really just like of like your own, like kind of embracing your own weirdness, which is kind of what he was all about. Also, never knew that it was called like that. I never knew that it was referred to as chopper like rap, I guess, or chopper rap until doing research for this. His album cover for Killer, also like one of the greatest album covers ever, because it's just him in a straitjacket, and it's like a riff of the Thriller album. But it's so weird though, because you mentioned like all these people that he's collaborated with, and he still has the respect. But like Dr. Dre is kind of the same thing, but maybe not as much lyric heavy, and he's more so known for a producer. But it's just crazy how there's almost like a double standard, where it's like, oh yeah, Tech Nine collaborates with everybody, but he is much more talented, I guess. Yeah. But yeah, you listed some pretty interesting songs here. But though it's the one with LMFAO that gets me. Tell me more about it.
Okay, so wait. One thing I do want to say about that is, what's really interesting, I think, about Tech Nine, and like he is, in terms of being involved in the music industry, his involvement goes back all the way to like the early '90s and stuff like that. And when you think about hip hop and rap as a genre of music that really only started in the very late '70s and kind of like wasn't even really a thing until like the early to mid '80s, like he got involved into that genre of music about a decade into its like entire existence, right? And then when you think about the fact that it's been like 30 years of involvement, and not only kind of keeping up with the pace of music, but also being relevant, as like he has collaborated with a lot of like very successful mainstream highly regarded artists and stuff like that. But then also at the same time, where in the early 2000s, the way that he was performing and presenting himself, like he was very much unique. You said he was he is an independent artist and stuff like that. He has had multiple deals with major record labels, but then has left those because it wasn't what he wanted to do creatively and as an artist and things like that. And throughout his career, like he does, like he paints his face when he goes on stage, right? And he does like a lot of weird things. He'll like wear masks and stuff like that. And the content, or I guess the, you know, what he creates music about is kind of different, and it has always been a little like out to left field. But it's funny because he's been around since so early in the existence of the genre of rap. But when you think about today's artists and the biggest rap artists that are in the world for the last like 5 or 6 years, it's been the rappers that have just been like completely uniquely themselves and almost like these like weird, presence that like can't even be duplicated, right? When you think about like XX Tentacion or Takashi 69 or Lil Yachty, or I don't even know who the most popular rappers are these days or whatever, right? But like that genre of music, like every character has just been so uniquely themselves, right? And it's like that is what has captivated everybody about them. But this rapper, this guy who's turned 50 years old this year, he turned 51 years old this year, who's been doing this for over 30 years, has been doing that the entire time, right? And then but this is what is like popular and captivating and talked about and respected now, but he's been doing that for decades. Then whenever you go back and you listen to his music and his content, what he was actually saying back then, it actually, it's very interesting, I guess you could say. But
Yeah. The last thing that I'll add is that he got like sugar clean, or not sugar clean, but like pretty clean The Rock to join on a rap record. And when you get like family Disney company guy The Rock to join you, I think you're doing some pretty awesome things. But move right along to question number 2. What's your favorite song to dance to?
I forget even what I put for this.
So before you even reveal your answer, I thought right away this was "Boom Boom Boom" by Venga Boys, and then I read it and I was like, "You traitor! You changed."
That yeah, okay, that would have been a fair answer, but yeah, I put "Independent Women" by Destiny's Child. I mean, have you ever listened to that song and not dance?
Fair enough. The honestly, the thing that takes me back to this song is the Proud Family. They use this for a scene. Basically, all the girls are going shopping with Penny's dad's credit card. And then I think the credit card even itself is voiced by Steve Harvey. But that's getting a little further into it. This is an incredible fucking song. I'm not gonna lie. I also watched the music video for this. Very 2000 CGI. Like this is straight early 2000s.
Well, isn't this from Charlie's Angels? Well, this is Charlie's Angels, right?
Yeah, this is from Charlie's Angels, yeah.
Oh yeah. And then I don't know. It's probably in a couple. It's an anthem. It's literally an anthem.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It sparked feminism.
Like the. I wish. Sorry, just 1 second here. It's a little bit of a delay, but you'll understand here in a second.
What?
So yeah, I just think it's well produced. Like I think the strings in it work really well. The bass line is just that's what keeps you going. And then just like how they kind of introduce the song, like very like soft and timid, where it's like Lucy Liu, Cameron Diaz, Charlie's Angels, come on. And then all the women who independent, throw your hands up at me. And I think it's just like that is this is definitely one of the first times of a song where it's like it's like when you hear like the doom 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 doom, and then it's like, all right, you get up, go. You don't even need the words. You just need to hear the beat, and you know exactly what it is. But moving on to question number 3, and I guess we'll do question number 4 as well because it's the same answer. So your favorite song on the current top 500, and number 5 rather. Question number 3 and 5. Your favorite song on the current top 500, and your favorite music video.
Yeah. Yeah, so my answer for this was Stand by Eminem. And the reason I kind of chose it from the current top 500 is because, well, to be honest, I just, in terms of favorite songs, I don't think any of my like quote unquote favorite songs would be in like the 500. It's very easy to see like a very popular song and be like, oh yeah, that's one of my favorites. In terms of Stand by Eminem, I think it is one of my favorite songs, and I think it is one of like the best songs to like represent rap and hip hop, and in kind of in terms of like it's a very poetic song in terms of and storytelling and things like that. And I think the fact that it's usually ranked so high in terms of, top songs of all time or top videos even of all time. And it seems to be one of those songs where, even with as controversial as Eminem has been throughout his career, with that song, people are usually just like, well, yeah, like, it is very good. And I think the impact that that song kind of had on culture and pop culture has held on for a very long time. Like, now, if someone says the word stan, has literally become, it means like you're a very fan or of somebody or something. And just kind of like the stories, when and then when you think about like storytelling and stuff like that, everybody knows the story. They know the cap that for his brother and things like, the fifth of vodka, the driving off the bridge, like every,
I think like as this song came out, Phil Collins in the air in the night,
yeah, like
like it skyrocketed.
like people know what that song is about because of this song, right? It's like, yeah, it's just like one of those things where it's just like, there's a lot when you think about storytelling songs, right? There's a lot of amazing songs over the course of time that tell very compelling stories. But when you think about the details of those stories, Stan is the most detailed, and it's like it's the most well known. Everyone knows how the story goes, and they know the exact details of it. That's pretty
Well, I
impressive.
think I think we're even at a time now where like Dear Slim, I wrote you, but you still ain't calling. I think it's now turned into a meme.
Exactly,
Um, yeah.
because it's that well known.
It's yeah. So first of all, like it's an incredible sample. Like it's just eerie enough. It
Mhm.
has it has some like interesting like monochromatic things
Mhm.
in it where like it kind of
Mhm.
comes out of like the actual like key of the song to kind of give it some cringe. But I think even like I mean lyrically it hasn't aged at times. Like even when you go onto YouTube and try to listen to the explicit version, they
Mhm.
cut out certain parts because it's just like we can't really like because they're almost like triggers at a point.
Mhm.
But um, it's just crazy how it's aged because even like with the Stan character, it's oddly relatable because like we've all like had that like obsession or that passion, maybe not to that extent, but we've all like had that like idolization or that fascination of something, and like it almost ties into the story of like never meet your heroes, um, but just like the way that it builds with the anger because you can see like you hear in the first verse like he's somewhat calm and like a little bit patient for what it is. And then like even like when you get into the music video, it even shows them like he writes the first letter, they go to the post office, and then the post office like the guy who's pushing the wrong things of mail, that letter slips
Oh,
out, and it's like, okay, what's gonna happen? It's like,
yeah,
well, dear dear Slim, like
yeah,
I forget how how the second verse goes, but just like really cool. And then even like the pencil scratch used, I
yep.
think that is it's really cool and just
It's unique.
like you never think to throw that in,
Yeah.
but it fits perfect for like an acoustic kind of DJ scratch.
And also, Dido's voice is uniquely fitting with the pencil scratching and all that, the rain, you know what I mean? Like, she has a very like kind of scratchy, raspy voice, and it kind of goes with that song very well as well.
Yeah. All right, let's go on to question number 4. We'll meet in the middle, I guess you'd say. What's your favorite concert?
Yeah, so for this, like, I haven't been to many concerts. The only concerts I've actually been at are concerts I've worked at. And so, but my favorite one that I was able to be there for is maritime band Great Big Sea when they performed in Charlottetown a few years ago.
Which is crazy because nobody knows what the fuck I talk about whenever I talk about this band.
It's wild. It's wild because, I mean, admittedly, they're one of those bands where it seems like all their songs kind of blend together. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, the sound,
like you're the night that Patty Murphy died, some like old Black Rums, and yeah.
But like Ordinary Day, and like they're one of those bands where, and actually going like whenever that concert happened, because my sister is actually a massive, like, she was a huge fan of them growing up and stuff like that. But obviously, I was listening to Eminem. So I wasn't paying much attention or whatever. But obviously who Great Big Sea was. And then whenever I was at that I was working that concert or whatever, so humble brag, I was literally on the stage watching them perform or whatever. And then it was just song after song after song after song I knew and I could sing along with, and the way, like, the energy that they brought the crowd. And they did like a huge solo section that went on for like 3 or 4 minutes where they're like, and I could just tell the band was just like jamming, you know what I mean? They were looking at each other and feeding off each other, and like it was just a super like high energy moment or whatever. And it was just one of those where, and the crowd control was just on point, and that was just the best experience by far for me.
Was there any bands that opened for them?
Honestly, I can't remember. That was the same weekend or whatever that Ludacris was performing. So Ludacris was there that weekend.
Man,
yeah, that was up there too. He did a pretty good time, but yeah, it was pouring rain the day that he was there, so it was.
So those in the community, if you remember Andrew, how he pushed like Elvis Costello, and it's like, guys, you need to listen to them. That's for me. You got to listen to more Great Big Sea, because I think it's just like these guys are like a universally kind of loved band, where it's like they're a perfect kind of family band. You have like so many great hits, like when I'm up I can't get down. They have like really soft ballads too, like Boston and St. John's. They're really good at a cappella as well. They have some cool sea shanties. Like I would love to hear Excursion Around the Bay, but live, because just to have the crowd behind that.
What genre would you say they are? Are they like?
They're like, you would almost have to call it Newfoundland folk, or like Celtic folk.
Mm-hmm.
But even then, there's like, because they use the bodhran quite heavy, which is like basically like a drum, like it's a one drum, and then like you have like it's like a rounded off mallet kind of to hit it, but you see it all the time at like Irish shows and whatnot. But yeah, if there's a record that I would recommend you guys check out, it's I think it's just XX. It's like their 20th anniversary one. It has some greatest hits, but it also has some new releases on it as well. It's a cool double album to kind of like contextualize their history. But moving on, to question number 6, because we already talked about question number 5. What is your favorite musical? Now, I will tell you now. Last week, Todd McLean decided to talk about Anne of Green Gables, the PEI musical that everybody comes here to see.
Yeah.
Are you going to bring up another island musical?
No, I've never seen the. I've never seen.
I'm glad that I'm not in the same boat on that. I said the same thing, and I'm like, haven't seen the fucking thing. But yeah, Corey, what's your
I've
musical?
never seen anything about it. I have no
No.
idea. Yeah, I have no idea if there's any songs for Anna Green and Gables. I have. Oh man, I couldn't care. I couldn't care less. But yeah. So my favorite musical, and I'm not a huge fan of musicals, especially like the live action stuff. I think I don't know, it's just a little bit too much for me. But I think musicals and animated movies seem to just work very well. And yeah, so my favorite musical is Hercules. Um, yeah. What's your opinion on Hercules? I want to hear from you first.
So, so Hercules has an interesting spot for me. It's the first thing that I ever talked about in this community. It was on a channel. It was on a channel called Take Three, and it was with somebody that is now banned from the community. Um,
Awesome.
but yeah, we broke this down song for song, and we agreed that it was good, but it was not the best of like this Renaissance era. Um, like I would still put Lion King above this. I don't know if I'd put Beauty and the Beast above it. I'm like, but I'm also in like the Beauty and the Beast is just okay. And then there's Aladdin as well, but like Aladdin's great. Um, but I like the I like two things in it, or like yeah, three things in it really rather. I like the gospel aspect of it, with like the gospel truth, and then like zero to hero, and like those singers.
Oh,
Um, I like the I like there's a royalness, or there's a prestigiousness with some of the songs, and in particular, "I Can Go the Distance," especially whenever they're ending that song. There's a big like fanfare to it, and it's just there's something very like royal and pompous about it, that kind of fits the setting quite well. But then you have this like out of fucking nowhere Motown bop with "No Chance No Way, I Won't Say I'm in Love," which is the Meg song, and it's just very like soft and light and beautiful. Um, but yeah, I haven't seen this in a while. I'll throw on the soundtrack every now and then. But I think my biggest memory of it is actually like I think it was McDonald's. When this would have been like whenever it came out, they threw all the fucking merchandise at this, like plates, cups, and I think there's still plates and cups at my parents' house to this day regarding Hercules.
yeah. Okay, so for me, I think so. Yeah. So what are those characters called? They have names, right?
Yes,
The,
to the
the
Googler,
yeah, the divine something, the divine sisterhood or something like that.
something like that.
Yeah, but like for me, and what I really like about that movie is that like they kind of serve their own role and their own character and stuff. Where a lot of the musical portions of other movies just kind of like pop up almost randomly, but they pop up in between scenes or acts or whatever you want to call it. So throughout the movie something happens and there's development, and then there's a huge like pivotal moment, and then they just kind of like pop up, and then they're switching the scene and the location, but they're also explaining like what happened, what's the outcome of the actions, and what, like, you know what I mean, if it's a time lapse, like how things were interpreted over that time. So through their like actual musical portion of it, they do a very good job like developing the plot while also keeping like the mood and the energy like very high in between different
Yeah,
locations and stuff. That's why
I
it's a different music aspect compared to a lot of the other movies as well. up until recently.
Yeah, I can't find the names of the of the girls.
Yeah, they say like right at the start of the movie.
Something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I wonder because if this is one of the ones as well that hasn't had the Disney like remake or the live action, but I think that's more so because I think it's just like it's similar to like Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs or the Little Mermaid, where it's what's the word I'm looking for? It's like there's no copyright on it. It's free license or something.
I guess because it's been referenced in a lot of
like a free domain. Yeah,
yeah,
like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But but like I find like there's like what would be the biggest song from the movie would be the whatever song Hercules sings, right? That was like the big commercial one. Yeah, Go the Distance or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's the that was the big one. And then I think Michael Bolton was the one that did a cover of it on the end. And what a fucking stinker to throw on the end.
Really?
It's not good.
Yeah. And that movie, there's like it's pretty loaded too with like mature innuendos, I guess you want to say. You know what I mean? Like when you go back and watch it, there's a lot of sexual innuendos and kind of adult humor that is like throughout the movie. So which obviously when you go back and rewatch it has some like replay value and stuff.
Interesting. All right. Let's move on to question number 7. Most overrated act. And you have struck a chord, not with me, but with producer man.
Yeah. I mean, okay, this is the one. Yeah. Okay, my answer is Madonna, but I only have like one. I only have like one argument for that.
Oh, jeez.
Who is the producer? I don't even know who it is.
It's Mr. Producer Man. He's just he's just around.
Okay. What's your opinions on this, Brooklyn?
I understand why people think she's overrated. I am definitely in that camp at times. I think it's just honestly going through the top 500 list has made me appreciate not necessarily.
Is she a good singer? Is she a good singer? Is she a talented singer?
No, she's not a good singer. She's a really good entertainer. She's a really good entertainer. Like her, like a Prayer, I think is like one of the best like top 40 songs. Like not necessarily the top 40 greatest, but if you were to put like chart topping like pop bubblegum hits, that is one that you have to throw on there. I think she definitely is extra. Where she does some weird ass things. Like I remember hearing stories about she did weird stuff with like rosaries or like was like tattoo like just getting these like random ass tattoos, but I think it was just more so to stand out. Like it's just so like would you consider Lady Gaga overrated as well? Which is basically like
no.
Which is interesting though, because Lady Gaga is heavily inspired by like how Madonna was just kind of like a trendsetter.
Yeah, but so for me, I don't even know what Madonna sounds like. You know what I mean? Like to me, she was just like sound editing before sound editing, or like I don't know. To me, I've never heard a Madonna song and been like, oh shit, she can sing.
Do you think now, Corey, given our age and given probably a lot of people's age in this community, do you think that there was a certain moment at the 2001 VMA Music Awards that we were just like, okay, I guess this is a big deal. I guess this is a big deal, but
is this what she kissed Britney Spears?
Yeah, not just Britney Spears, Christina Aguilera. I think that's the thing that's often forgotten about. Everybody has the Britney clip. But yeah,
no,
just like I feel like that sort of thing was like provoked by her. Where
I
it's
would
just like
say, I would say,
we're always trying to get the people talking.
I would say Madonna was almost like man, you see like these like celebrities now where it's like they have like three popular songs and they're in like a movie and they dated like someone really, you know what I mean? It's like they're just kind of like famous for stuff. You know what I mean? It was like that's you know, like for me it was like Madonna, like okay, yeah, I understand she's a massive musician. She had like, you know, I understand her cultural influence and stuff like that in terms of like how she presented herself essentially through her music was very groundbreaking. But in terms of like talent and musical talent, she almost seemed like a product rather than a talented musician that was being popular. But that's just my interpretation, and that's not a hill I want to die on.
Yeah. I think in the mix of like 80s music, like if you were to like if you were to have like an 80s playlist or like a 90s playlist, she needs to be in there, but she's not going to be the best.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean,
She is like it's important to have her in the conversation, but also remember all like the not necessarily the diva-esque things, but just like the
all right, bro,
things that she
I have a question for you. What musical artist is the greatest at their genre and their popular time was in the 80s?
the best. Oh, then Michael Jackson with pop.
Okay. Was he not seven or was 80s his time?
88, yeah, like 80s
In the
was
80s,
his solo time. I wish I had Caleb Coe here right now. But yeah, like his first solo album Off the Wall was 79.
oh, okay.
So
Okay. So I
he
thought they
was
were
just kind of like, and then
yeah.
I think Thriller was like 83 or 84.
Oh, okay. Oh, wow.
But yeah, that would be the answer.
That's the answer.
Yeah. All right, on to question number 8. Your favorite score.
Oh yeah, so I picked Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone for this.
Now it's so weird though because everybody here calls it the Sorcerer's Stone, and I feel like we might get picked on for calling it that.
But why?
I don't know. People like they're picky with fandom.
I thought
like, I'm not even.
I thought Philosopher's Stone was the North American release.
Maybe I don't know. I feel like if you got the question of like Professor Quirrell was in which Harry Potter movie, one person could put Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, one person could put Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, and that should be correct.
Right.
Yeah. But anyways,
yes.
So we get onto this.
Yes.
So I'll get my thoughts on it. Okay. I've said before, I think on YLS, that this is John Williams, his most, I guess, is like his best score from a musician's perspective. It is different in that it doesn't follow a lot of the traditional score beats. Like it's not in the same. It's not in like a traditional sort of key. It has these weird kind of like flats and naturals and whatnot, which gives it a much more pronounced sort of like fantasy vibe. And I like how they basically take that one riff of like do 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 do, and they change the notes in that structure, but like they keep that as the signature throughout the series. So you definitely like all good scores, you got the sense of emotion throughout it. But I do think that this is the one that John definitely like just tried new stuff and it worked. I know a lot of people would still have Star Wars as their favorite score from him, or like even Jurassic Park. I mean, we're on the video store. But yeah, I think it's just a quality to him that like he was able to make yet another like defined theme that is going to stick with everybody.
Yeah, so for me, growing up, I read the Harry Potter books, and I didn't do a lot of reading as a kid. I've read a few different series and stuff like that. Obviously, Harry Potter was the highlight, and I remember that experience of when the new book came out and like you get it and then you go home and you want to read it, the enjoyment, the excitement, the creativity that you get as you're going through that. And then so whenever you read the book and then you get to create this like world and this experience as you're reading it, and then they make a movie out of it. And back at that time, like whenever they were making the Harry Potter movies, they were a big deal. You know what I mean? Like there was a lot of hype, there was a lot of attention, like there was a lot of buzz around bringing this like literature to screen. And around that time was also this, whenever Harry Potter started, Lord of the Rings started. So you know we were pretty young at that. Like I was only 10, or yeah, I was 10 when that happened, Brooklyn. So like I like, to me, like that just seems like it was probably a crazy time for film. But I remember whenever the Philosopher's Stone came out and you watched it, I felt like, and looking back at the franchise, I feel like the first two movies do it the best of recreating that kind of like quote unquote literal and metaphorical magic of, you're going into that magical world, but also at the same time, the from them bringing like a magical world from page to screen. I thought they did a very good job at kind of like, like the first time you saw something float in the Philosopher's Stone movie, you're like, oh, that shit's crazy.
Yeah, look, and like the great thing too is that those movies, they age well. Like going back to them now, that you don't see like the kind of like the set sort of flaws, I guess, or whatever. Whereas kind of going back to Star Wars again, when you go back to Star Wars, it is a 70s movie. And just the way that it's edited, and you can see some of the rougher cuts that just got refined over time. But moving on to question number 9, penultimate one. Your favorite soundtrack, and you gave a couple of different answers. We'll go through the honorable mentions first.
Okay.
The one that threw me for a loop, Coach Carter.
Yes.
I saw this movie like in junior high, I want to say. I don't remember the soundtrack on it. But then there was also Guardians of the Galaxy. They mentioned as well. Like, I mean, that's not like that. Like that's standard. Some people in this community say that the soundtrack is a character within the movie. And Cody,
I would agree. That's probably the reason why I really like that. That I would be picking that.
All right, you and Cody can go talk on a different show.
At some points, you wonder whether the movie is complimenting the song or whether the song complements the movie, and that is what happens in the Guardians of the Galaxy. There are times where they want you to listen to the song and they just want the movie to be happening in the background.
So I feel like you need to put that question into a certain chat, and then I just want to see the wheels turn on that one. Quickly on Coach Carter. Why Coach Carter?
I don't know. I just like really like hip hop and stuff like that. And some of those songs in it, I think are just like really good songs. And I think a lot of the songs portray the emotion and kind of set the tone for the upcoming scenes, similar to Hercules, where I feel like I'll call them the choir or whatever. The choir kind of develops the plot line. I feel like the songs in Coach Carter really do a good, like they do a lot of like I'll say like gospel-y, preachy kind of songs, you know what I mean? That kind of have that vibe to them. But at the same time, they have a lot of like game time, halftime, whistle blowing, kicks screeching on the floor type songs too, whenever they're competing and being athletic and competitive and stuff like that. So I feel like in terms of its influence, in terms of like how it sets the tone in the movie, it does a really good job. A funny story about this, and the only time I'll be able to able to tell this is there was one time we were having like a weekend cottage trip or whatever, and we were just listening to music as we were playing like board games and drinking throughout the afternoon. And then there was a song that played, and I recognized it. And I was like, "Oh fuck, that's from the Coach Carter, like that's on Coach Carter or whatever."
Yeah.
And then like 25 minutes later, we're just listening to songs, and then my buddy Watty or whatever, he's sitting there and he goes, "Hey, do you know what movie has a really good soundtrack?" And without a second of hesitation, I just go, "Coach Carter." And then he looked at me and he goes, "How the hell did you know?" It was just like one of those times where it just everything clicked. And he's like, "That's exactly what I was gonna say." And I was like, "Yeah, you're right. It's a great soundtrack."
Interesting. But the one that you picked, this,
Yeah.
like this surprised me. 2021's The Harder They Fall.
Mm-hmm.
So what? Yeah. How did you come across this?
Well, so for Coach Carter, I would say, well, Coach Carter uses songs and they apply it to the film. And I don't know if this is true or not, but I feel like the film was applied to the songs on the soundtrack. I watched the movie on Netflix or whatever, and I was like, wow, this is unreal. And I heard the music in the background and I was kind of intrigued by it. So I just like looked it up on Spotify and started listening through it. And I was like, oh shit. I was like, the album songs almost tell a story similar to the way the movie's told, right? And I was like, oh, that's, with Harry Potter, you talk about going from page to screen or whatever. I was like, oh shit, like with this, you're kind of going from screen to audio and you're kind of telling the same story. And I was like, it does a pretty good job at that. And I feel like these songs are kind of catered and created around, the movie. And I mean, and they're all I just think they're really good songs too. So.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Like these are pretty cool curation. The one that I recognized right away was Pressure Drop. And that was on the top 500 list. And I like such a great bop.
Mm-hmm.
But this is my favorite era, I guess, of music loving Corey, because this is like you have taken quite a hard turn into funk. And I feel like this is a peak of your admiration of funk.
Hell yeah. Yeah. Whenever you asked me to do the top 500, the Rolling Stones thing or whatever, and
yeah.
I forget what song it was that I had to review that was like in funk or whatever. And then anyway, so I went and I listened to it, and then I listened to the album it was from, and then I listened to a couple other albums and stuff like that. And now I'm just kind of like, funk is just like every second day there's just like the Funk and Souls classic playlist that goes on or whatever. And well, I mean, on this soundtrack, Seal's song "Ain't No Better Love" is just like, it's one. It's. I'm not. I would. It's comparable to almost like "Stan" or whatever by Eminem in terms of just like storytelling, right? And kind of setting the mood, and it keeps track of it the entire time, and kind of controls the mood of the song, like you were saying in Stan, how it's like the first verse he's calm and it escalates. Where in that song, it's like throughout the verse it escalates and then it brings you right back down again. Just really good music.
Cool. All right. To end off the set list of questions, number 10, your favorite song to perform and sing. But you went back to one of the wells. Which well did you go back to?
I went back to the well of song or question number 2, I guess. The Destiny's Child well, and Say My Name by Destiny's Child.
Right. So yeah, why this one?
I don't know. I literally don't know. And yeah, like
because this is a tough song to sing, especially when you get into the pre-chorus and like they're going kind of go full circle, but Tech 9 levels of speed and just how articulate they are and their syllables. It's crazy because this is like Destiny Child's like one of their opening singles, and it's still their best single despite everything else they put out afterwards, like Survivor, like Independent Women Part 1. What are some other ones? Oh God, Can You Keep Up, Baby Boy? What's that song called?
Lose My Breath.
Lose My Breath, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know. I just went through a phase in like university where, well, university and like 3 or 4 years after university, where if I was at a factory, remember at factory downstairs they had the like karaoke nights on Thursday or whatever it was.
Thursday nights, yeah.
I used to just go there, man. It was always just saying my name by Destiny Child. It wasn't. I never went there intending to do it. It just came out. You know what I mean? I don't know why, but it did.
Yeah. Now, the song that I would have thought that you would have picked for this one is "Forgot About Dre," because I feel like like anytime that we are hanging out and there's hip hop music on, that is the one that you know off the top of your head.
Yeah, that would definitely, that'd be like 2 or 3. If I like say my name, if you had to, if you had the revolver to the head scenario,
yeah,
it would probably be "Forgot About Dre." If you have the 12 beer and 2 tequila shots, it's Say My Name.
Not Fireball.
Yeah, a couple shots of that too.
Okay, a couple shots of Fireball. All right. Well, that is it. I want to thank you, Corey, for coming on. Two more like little bonus questions. One, who are some artists that you would that you are listening to now that you would recommend for people to listen to, and who are some people that you would like to see on this show?
Ooh, shit. Okay, so 2 artists I'm listening to right now. One, it's his name. It's a rapper. His name is Akeem Ali. He has an album that he released in 2019 that I've probably listened to like 150 times this year or whatever. And then so I've listened to him a bunch. And then an artist from the past that doesn't get enough credit is his name is Bill Withers. And I recommend anybody going back and listen to any of his music. The influence he's had on music has been unreal. Some of his songs are so good and have aged so well throughout the years. I listen to him every day too. So wait, what was the other question?
Who are some people that you'd like to see on the show?
Oh, on the show. So wait, are we talking? Do you want to give me an answer? Do you want a trivia community answer or do you want a PEI answer?
Let's say one of each.
Okay. Actually, someone that you should talk to from Prince Edward Island would be Tyler Sherr.
Yeah.
His insight and stuff like that would actually be pretty interesting to hear about or whatever. Trivia. Are you having Caleb Coho on it?
I imagine he's going to be on here at some point. So,
but he's not scheduled.
Not scheduled yet. I'm kind of I'm saving him for the end where it's like when we have to like jump the shark.
Yeah, so I wouldn't get
because Corey, let's be honest here. The CK the Caleb Bowmans and the Caleb Cohos, they're on everything.
Yeah, I don't want
hey,
I don't want to hear Caleb Coho. I'd like to. What kind of music does Thomas Scully like?
That's a good question. Idea. I don't think Scully has been on anything music.
I don't know what I have no idea what that guy likes. Does he have a personality?
Oh, he definitely has a personality. He likes the Bulls. He likes the Bears. He's big into sports. You have to realize that Scully is basically my Twitter for baseball, basketball, and football info. Because usually what happens is it's like any of our fantasy sports chat groups or whatever. It's Scully posting a tweet or like Paul Yama posting a tweet, and then it's Sleeper reporting that exact same thing, 15 minutes later.
Wow. Very impressive.
But yeah, tune in next time where we're talking to somebody and asking them the same 10 questions. But for Corey, myself, and for Mr. Producer Man, thank you guys for tuning in. Cheers. And as always, drive safely.